We'll check it.
Yeah, but, that's good.
Yeah, it kind of goes in streaks. If we start checking it once a week, there's not hardly a bag missing, but then all of a sudden you go in one, it's empty.
The other ones have 3 dispensers. So we should just go down and
Swap them all.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, we are live.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of agenda additions or deletions for the meeting. Additions or deletions?
I have none.
Keep, I guess, what we had talked about, do we want to put that as 8F, the ACH update?
If you would like, yeah.
Yes, I'd like to do that. So under 8, item F, ACH update. It's listed under unfinished business on last meeting, so we should continue that because it's still not finished.
ACH, okay. Any other additions or deletions?
I have none.
Entertain a
I
motion.
make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
A second.
Mr. Chair, if I may, could you just speak up a little bit? So
You can mic up.
I'm happy now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, such a
Can
second.
you hear? Yeah, I know, my voice doesn't carry.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you just want to
Yeah. Okay,
project a little, so thank you.
there is a way to turn this up to.
I think we're good.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Public comment. Do we have any?
Mr. Chair, I may have a comment. I reserve that right till before adjournment, but before adjournment, but at the end of the meeting, I may have a comment. If I could reserve the timing till then.
I guess if I may interject.
Sure.
Can we ask what the topic is?
It would be concerning donations.
Okay, so you would, since that's a topic that's on the agenda, typically you do allow public comment for items. Public comment period is typically, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Public comment is typically for people that want to bring up a topic that's not on the agenda.
Correct.
So if he wants to talk about an item on the agenda, I would suggest we wait until that point.
That would be correct.
Yeah, that's why I did want to make sure.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so no, any other
No.
public comment then?
Mr. Romanek, Mr. General Manager, I believe you skipped over approval of minutes.
Number 3.
Oh,
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair, yes, thank you.
That's the problem with these scrolling tabs.
That's why I print that part.
Yeah. Back up to approval of the minutes.
I make a motion. I don't see anything that I question here. Also, I make the motion to approve the minutes from last week, May 25th.
And I'll second that. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Public comment. 4, 5, certification of accounts payable.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions, just for clarification. Item 28 and 29, do we know what the balances are on those bonds?
So I will refer the commission to, in the financial reports, if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see one for the electric department, which shows that for total non-current liabilities for revenue bonds payable is 1.26 million. And then on the water department balance sheet, let's see, looking here. The non-concurrent liabilities for revenue bonds payable is 1.56 million as of May 31st. And also just FYI, in the audit, which I think we gave you a
Yep.
printed copy, which you also have, on page 8, on the statement of net position, it lists the liabilities for bonds, notes, and loans payable of 3.3 million. And then if you really want some detail, if you go to page 22, you will actually see the detail of long-term debt, which goes through each bond, the interest rate, the maturity rate, what's outstanding, and what was paid in the prior year. Or I'm sorry, what's due in the upcoming year for both principal and interest.
Thank you.
Take a look at that.
You just saved me a lot of looking.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Just a quick question. The other comment I have is item 33. The rebate. I think it's so nice to see that each time that these companies are taking advantage of that service. You know, they're updating their system to get the rebate. How much money they're spending on it, I don't know, but that's working. And that's so cool to see that. It's happened what the month before.
Yes.
So
Oh, thank you.
that's terrific.
Thank you.
That's all I have on the payables.
Entertain a motion to,
I make a motion to approve and certify the accounts payable.
second. All in favor, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, reports.
Oh, yeah, those are all in your packets, the SIPA minutes, key metrics, the financial reports for the income statement, balance statement, trial balance, cash reserve.
Yep. Got those. Any questions on those?
No.
Okay, moving on to number 7, updates, electric department updates.
First is the generation plan, Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, in the generation plant, we were unable to repair the liner in the number 3 engine. So the guys have to begin work for disassembly. We got a new liner from Simpa to put in it. So that engine's currently down here for a short period of time until we get that replaced. The jacket water filtration system, the guys got installed. In phase 1, correct me if I'm wrong by saying that, phase 1 of the SCADA system is complete. And that was to get the scoreboard up and running, so we could see what our loads were for engines and substations. So that's up and going. The boiler and the ballast tank are scheduled for work this summer, and that will begin here shortly. The first week of July, the boiler should go down there to retube it. The ballast tank, I believe, Jay is working on that as we speak. So a couple of the things that we're working on, it's coming.
And one little tidbit that I interject, you mentioned the rebates
Mhm.
for simple commercial customers. It is something that we participate in as well. So when Nancy Kelly, our ESR, was in town a couple times ago, she went through and did a compressed air leak study with Jim.
Yep.
Identified a couple of leaks, I think. Have those been, we've been able to remedy those?
A couple of them we have.
Yeah, so we're taking advantage of the same program as well for our internal
Right.
operations.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay, then distribution system.
Yes, we, in the electric department, received a shipment of AMI meters Monday. So the guys are busy continuing on with that. I think we're right less than about we're around 500 meters left total in town for the electric department to do. With that, we installed a 3rd gateway collection device at the Princeton Bowling Alley. There was a house service damaged last Friday, I believe. The house just south of the Civic Center, 811 North 5th Avenue. The seal coating crew booked a house service and ripped it off the side of the house. We were able to get it patched up and back running in just a little under 2 hours. So that included getting an electrician here, getting it all put back together. He was just Salt Zimmerman, the one we had called. Gearing up for getting the underground project started here, the letters notifying the affected residents or customers should be going out possibly this week or early next week. And then GIS updates again with the weather, stickers, locate, but quite a few locate service orders. And then the new topic for this week is Monday morning, we had theft and damage we had a theft out of our south lot here. About that's where the really you were speaking of earlier come from. So we made police reports. The damage is probably gonna be theft of the damage is gonna come in somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. So
Is that something that's submitted to insurance?
I'd have to look at our deductibles. That-
Probably higher than that.
It might be, we will check into it, but, yeah, typically that's,
I know several years ago, I think the deductible was 10,000 when Dave was here.
okay. One thing I will mention about this, just so people, general public knows, because we ran into this with this theft, is people look at that cable sitting in our storage lots and think it's all copper.
Hmm.
And it's not.
it's not worth anything.
It's
It's really not.
it's aluminum wire. And part of what happened, we think, with this theft is they had pulled out a whole bunch of wire and as they were cutting it up, realized it's not copper, and then they just abandoned it. So it's unfortunate that, we sustained so much damage for something that doesn't have any value to anybody but us.
They don't know until after the fact.
Right, so,
Worth less than the cost of the fence repair.
uh,
It was worth less than the cost of the fence repair.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the unfortunate thing about the whole.
What are the preventive measures to eliminate that or prevent that?
I don't want to get into specific security protocols in a public forum. It is something that we are
Address?
reevaluating,
Okay.
to make sure
That's
that we do protect ourselves.
It may not help if we just put it back together and leave it the way it was, so.
Now, just a clarification, was it taken from right back here or from by the water tower?
Both spots.
Both, okay.
Yep, the 352 feet come out of the lot right down the street, right next door here. And then the reel that you were talking about earlier and the damage to the fence occurred at the cell substation, which is by the water tower by Mark Park.
I guess, the one thing that really concerns me is just people inside that area to begin with. I mean, there can be.
No, that's exactly right. So
The theft is one thing, but someone
there's been
could be seriously
very
injured.
graphic and well-documented cases of people getting in they've been killed.
Yeah.
There was an incident in Texas where a couple of gentlemen were trying to steal wire out of energized conduits.
Hmm.
And they found them laying there or dead. So it isn't something you want to start messing with, so.
Yeah, I mean. But beyond fencing, I don't really know what else you can do.
Yeah, that's.
But scary to get the people who probably aren't the smartest people to begin with, because they're in there stealing and get them around some high voltage. Was that it?
Yes, that's it.
Up next, water department updates.
Yeah, the actuators that were giving us some trouble at water treatment plant 1. We resolved that issue. They're functioning at 100%. We haven't had any more call-ins on them. We finished the spill containment improvements around the back lot, around the fuel tanks. The gate opener is installed completely now and fully functional. We've been working down at Fairway Ponds. We have an issue down there with some driveways that are settling out. And the curb stops end up protruding through the driveway, and then the skid loaders and they plow bust them off. So we've been cutting driveways down there and lowering the curb stops to prevent any more damage.
Do you require many manholes?
We don't at this point. We've talked about it. What's the best solution for curb stops that end up in driveways to prevent that from happening? I got a little pushback as far as the cost of them. You know, who should front that? They're about $120, $115.
But it's gonna save the damage.
Right, but do we pay that or does the homeowner pay that?
Typically, it's the builder home.
Right,
The insulation.
yeah. I mean, we recommend them to anybody that ends up with a curb stop in the driveway to put one in there. Some do it, some don't.
Might not be a bad idea if you're doing repairs to place them in a bed.
Okay. Yeah,
Just, almost every city that we work for requires them now. I can't think of one city that doesn't.
they're a great idea.
We just don't have that much new construction here where it's really probably been
Right.
thought of. But,
Yep.
It does, the best would be not to have them in driveways.
Correct.
But if they are, a minivan is very helpful, especially for you guys working on, when you have to do,
Sure.
show them sort of.
And then we
Well,
got a couple.
if I may, is that something that we should look at for our service rules for,
Yeah, I think we should.
for our water rules for new construction?
Yep.
And we could put in a requirement that way, if that's what. the commission-
Yeah, I can't remember the exact cost, but I think it's somewhere around $75.
I don't remember. I thought the last time I seen it, could we get ours from Core and Maine? And we can shop around a little bit too. Maybe there are cheaper places to buy them.
Yeah, we get ours somewhere down by Hand Lake, there's a supply down there, I think it's $75.
Okay.
With installation, you're probably looking at $150 installed or something like that,
Okay.
you know, because they probably take an hour or something to install.
Sure.
Okay, so Scott, you and I should look at the water service rules
Yep.
for new construction and see if, what language we could bring to the commission with the cost estimate.
Okay.
All right.
We got a couple of bell boxes. One is on 21st Avenue and First Street, and the other one is on First Street between, I believe it's 11th and 12th Avenue. We're gonna cut open on Tuesday morning. I'm working with Bob from the city. Since they have the blacktop trailer, he's gonna give us a hand with some of the blacktop repair on these bell boxes at the curb stops. Other than that, the guys are out today actually working on fire hydrants. They're pulling seats out of a couple of fire hydrants that chatter when you open and close them. Doing a little preventative maintenance.
Mhm.
And I do want to emphasize with Scott's work on the valve boxes that the city staff have been very great to work with and been helping us so that we can keep these projects moving and not leaving open gaps in pavement for any significant amount of time. So it's been a great partnership between utilities and the city on this one.
Oh, that's good.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. We go to 7C, City of Princeton update, Administrator McPherson.
Yes. Jules sends his regrets. He was bummed that he double booked himself, but I told him I had his back. Actually, things are pretty quiet. We got through the audit. We had to, the auditors were kind enough to reschedule us. Tracy being new, that even with Steve's help and me doing data entry to help out, it's a lot of prep work. And this was her first audit. There just wasn't a lot of pre-planning. And so they actually bumped us out a couple, I think a couple weeks. So we finished the audit. Preliminarily, no new significant findings for us. We'll formally present the audit tentatively on July 8th. We have a conference call tomorrow with the auditors to kind of go over the findings, and Tracy's working on the management letter as of right now. So, so that's kind of the big thing. Steve Jackson, I don't know, did you?
I have not briefed them.
Okay, so Steve Jackson had a stroke. It's been about a week now, I think. We're providing, his wife is providing my staff updates every other day. He's doing well. He is at a rehab facility at the U of M. So he's actively participating in physical therapy, occupational therapy, cognitive therapy, and he is getting stronger. The type of stroke he had is in the artery, kind of along your spinal column, going up to the brain, and it's a tear in the artery, and he was experiencing, after he had it and he was in the hospital, they were having issues managing his pain, but they've found a medication now that actually helps control. It's an anticonvulsant, and it actually works for controlling the nerve pain. So once they figured that out, they were able to then transfer him down to the university for rehab. So we're not sure when he'll be back, but I provide updates to all the department heads, Keith included, and the city council as we get them. So just wanted to let you know that. I'm sure many of you know Steve from his long history with the city. So we have, excuse me, requested through the Minnesota Office of Management and Budget. We submitted our request for the American Rescue Plan funds. There's some very specific uses that we can use them for. This is the stimulus package that was approved in March under President Biden. The city will get roughly just over $500,000. The way it's being divvied out, half of it will come to us in 21, the other half in 22. And then we luckily don't have to spend it in a hurry. We're doing some thoughtful work with the department heads, Keith included, to put together a list of potentially eligible projects, which will work as a team to prioritize and make a recommendation to the city council. And we don't have to spend the money until 2024. So we're going to go through and look at our priorities and see where we want to spend that money. So we're working on that.
And on that, so water is included, but not electric.
Correct.
There are things in water such as lead service line replacements, things like that. So I've shared the information with Scott. We're going to get together at some point and try to see what projects we might have so that we can submit those to the city and do it as one big package. So.
I got my long list started.
All right.
Well, you're going to be competing with an upgraded SCADA system for wastewater treatment. So, and possibly new turnout gear for the firefighters. So it's really focused on public safety, improving infrastructure, specifically sewer, water, and broadband. And then there's some revenue replacement and some incentives to businesses and low-income residents who've been hit hard by the pandemic. So we'll see where we end up with, but we're working as a team cooperatively to put together the list, try to prioritize, because I know for a fact that there's going to be more needs than there is money. So we have to, as a group, make a recommendation to the city council. So we're working as a team. We met with the county engineer internally, and basically it was a very short meeting. We thought that County Road 4, 7th Avenue North was being reconstructed. We found out we were wrong, so now we're reconvening. I'm setting up a new meeting with all of our internal staff to figure out, kind of talk about what our options are. We all have infrastructure in that road, and so we need to figure out, you know, does it need to be replaced? If so, then it's always cheaper to do it now than wait 15 years, because prices are not going to go down, or if they do, it's going to be very small in very small amounts. But we're working cooperatively again with your staff and my staff to try to put together a comprehensive plan of attack. So that's about it. Otherwise, it's just business as usual and moving forward. So that's all I have.
Thank you. 7D, general manager's report.
Yeah, a couple of things on the regulatory side. We did get our Department of Commerce Conservation Improvement Program report complete. We work on, SIPA does a lot of that for us. The results for 2020 is we achieved the energy savings of 1.9%, which exceeds our statutory minimum of 1.5%. We achieved our low income spending program was at 1%, because this is all a percentage of gross operating revenues on the electric side, which exceeds the state minimum statutory requirement of 0.2%. And so total spending was at 2.8%, which exceeds the 1.5% requirement. In terms of spending, I just want to point out that most of that is by SIPA, not by us. We do spend some money on for some marketing, some things like that, but a lot of that is on SIPA side. But being the retail utility, we're the ones that report that. We did complete the EPA risk and resiliency report, so that's been filed. So thanks to Scott for that one. The Minnesota Department of Commerce Electric Utility Annual Report has been completed as well. I do want a lot of the utilities and the environmental community and the consumer advocates have been working together for years on an Energy Conservation Optimization Act, which is called ECO. That was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, becoming law effective May 26th. It was bipartisan. It's it's everything we hear that we should be doing. Everybody working together and coming up with some big compromises. For us, there weren't a whole lot of changes for the municipal utility world. Our savings goals remain at 1.5% of retail sales. The state did increase their overall economy-wide energy savings goal from 1.5% to 2.5%, but that's to deal with other sectors. There's a little bit of changes on some of the reporting. Again, SIPA takes care of a lot of that for us. There was, just a couple of tweaks here and there. I'll get into the real nitty-gritty of it. One of the things that I'll mention that got impacted was how and do we include electric vehicles kind of in this new environment that we're in. So the way it's initially set up is we do not count any increased sales from electric vehicles into our overall savings goal until 2032. So that's to help encourage adoption. Just getting through this real quick. There is some language in there saying that they really encourage municipal utilities to work with school districts, which we already do. We already meet all the terms of that. So even some of the changes that got implemented really don't have any impact on us because it's been our normal business operation. And then they addressed some issues regarding fuel switching as well. Again, some of that comes down to electric vehicles and looking at the greenhouse gas emission reductions that come from that kind of activity. All in all, the ECO Act, like I said, did have support from MMUA and the municipal utilities, MRC, CEA, the Rural Co-ops Electric Association, and their members, the investor-owned utilities, the environmental community. So it was really, it took about 7 years, I think, for this all to go through. But everybody seems pretty happy with it. So that was, it's the most significant energy legislation that's been passed since the Next Generation Act in 04 under Plenty, which I had actually been involved with a little bit. So it's kind of a generational thing when it comes to energy. It doesn't happen every day. So on the legislative front, that was a big thing. Last I heard, because the legislature is still in session, there is some discussions going on in conference committee right now that is looking at some potential modifications to our cold weather rule. Some of those modifications, at least what's being proposed, is potentially expanding the time frame. Right now, the cold weather rule runs from October 15th to April 15th. And it sets up very strict rules as to what utilities can do in terms of cutoffs for non-payment. So they're looking at expanding the duration of the cold weather rule. They're looking at increasing some of the timing. So as of right now, during cold weather rule, we have to give 20-day notice. They want to increase that to 30 days. And then they're also increasing the reporting requirements that the utilities have to do in terms of sharing disconnect lists with the local cap agencies as well as the state, which does run into certain consumer privacy issues that I'm not quite sure how that would play out. What all that means, I can't predict where it's going to go. I don't know if that's going to get approved or not. MMUA is keeping track of all that. If it does get approved, it would be implemented immediately, which means our cold weather rule stuff for this fall would need to be updated, and we would have to change our procedures. And so that's going to take us some work to make sure that we're abiding by statutes under the new rules. So just something to keep in mind. It hasn't happened yet, but if it does, it's going to require us to update forms and procedures. So just wanted to make sure the commission was aware of those potential changes that are coming. We did have our planning meeting with DGR on Tuesday, June 8th to look at our electric system study. Jeremy and I have been working with Andy Koo to get him the information that he needs for that. Internally, we're continuing to streamline and improve our operational efficiencies. We've eliminated or automated several items in our monthly billing process. Debbie and I actually met with the school district this month as well, in terms of making sure we're getting them the data that they need, and actually identified some opportunities to help the school out. The school currently participates in what's called the B3 project, which is building benchmarking and beyond, in which they import utility data into a state database. We're keying it all in manually at the moment, and I think we can give them the data electronically. We can automate it on our end, which eliminates some manual data entry for us, and also helps them at the same time. So we're working with the school on streamlining a couple of issues with their billing system. Cindy also, our CSR, has announced her retirement. Her last date is this Friday. The job has been posted. I've gotten a tremendous amount of interest, and we're currently working through that process at the moment to find a replacement for her. Cindy's been with us for 14 years. She's been phenomenal with our customers, just a good face for the organization. We're really gonna miss her. And some big shoes to fill. That's what I have in my notes for the moment. I guess, does anyone have any questions for me?
No. Thank you, Mr. Butcher. Moving on to number 8, ongoing business. 8A, AMI.
Yep, Jeremy mentioned that we just got in some new AMI meters, so the electric is starting on that. We're currently at 81.9% complete for electric and 29.9% complete for water. Water is still on hold until we can get some new nodes in, which last we heard earliest is August for that.
EVs,
The DC fast charger for the month of May, we recorded 15 sessions, collecting $180, delivering 481 kilowatt hours. The L2s have been installed, they are operating, and agreements have been recorded with the county. So those are done.
8C, service territory development.
I just got word yesterday afternoon that East Central Energy has agreed to terms with us for the new Princeton Business Park. So I am working on drafting up the final formal agreement for the transition of that service territory to our service territory. Now that East Central Energy has agreed to terms, it should go through the process without any objections. But you know, there's still a process. It's still going to take us several months to work through the State Public Utilities Commission to redraw the service lines. But I'm not expecting any problems now that we have agreement.
Did I see in there, Keith, where it's paid over a 25-year time period and something about 1 cent per kilowatt?
It's a yes, it's a 10-year period.
Okay.
And the mill rate that we agreed to is 10 mils, which is a penny a kilowatt hour. And it is capped at 250,000 kilowatt hours sold per lot. So this is something, and at some point, I want to share that with Michelle as well, so she's aware. How that lot get divided out will have a little bit of an impact on us. It is the exact same agreement that we had with East Central Energy for the Aero Business Park. Okay. So I just wanted to finish it, just keep that going. What was my intent? For the Aero Business Park, that was signed in 2013. It's a 10-year expiration, which means that nothing gets built before 2023, we don't pay anything at that point because there's no loss. You know, they don't consider loss after 10 years to be loss to post utility at that point. There's no infrastructure at that location, so there was no need for us to buy and transfer equipment. It was simply a service territory change. So it's about as simple as yeah.
What does the seller think about that if this is set up and 10 years go by and nobody's there?
Well,
I can speak to that. We do have 3 or 4 interested parties, and I don't think it's going to be 10 years before they start building, so.
Yeah, I was just wondering on for the Aero,
yeah.
you know, how.
Well, the city, when you say seller, do you mean the city or do you mean?
No.
Central Energy?
East Central.
I will say that utilities don't like giving up service.
Right.
They don't like it. However, the statute is pretty clear that if it's within city limits and that city has a municipal utility, that municipal utility has the right to serve. So that's why these agreements sometimes take a while, is, you know, they don't want to, but they understand that they have to. So.
Yeah, the bigger fish to fry on that would be our current industrial park, because we don't service that.
Right.
So once we get through with this, I wouldn't mind starting that process back up. I talked about that a little bit. That might be a little more intense time-wise on your part. It might be a full-time job
Yeah.
for a while, but
Can we support that?
Support.
The industrial park to the south,
Well,
as far as the energy and whatnot that they use.
well, yes, simply, since we're 100% simple, simple has the capacity.
Okay.
They would be very supportive of us doing that. The infrastructure is already there. So we're not looking at building anything, at least initially. But we would have to buy the equipment from Nexus, and that's where some of the discussions can get very complicated, is to, okay, what's the value of it, how to appreciate it, how do you know, what's the fair value? And sometimes it takes an administrative law judge to rule on that. And then that would also typically include a standby mill rate for the next 10 years. 10 cents for an industrial park that has no infrastructure and was part of a public effort by the city, who's taking all the risk, is about as low as you can get. Most other annexation agreements and service territory acquisition are at much higher bill rates. So there's a lot of numbers to crunch, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to take time and a lot of analysis.
But if there would be a long-term payout to the PUC, I think that's the direction that we should go.
Correct.
I'm for investing in things that would pay us back, even if it's not in my term, but if it, you know.
Yeah, eventually it's,
Yeah, so let's just
Yeah.
want to bring it up just to get it in the radar.
I mean, there is follow your question along, you know, it does even get more complicated in terms of generation.
Mhm.
You know, is the mission of this commission that we're able to feed the whole town on its first day. Right now, we have just under 12.2 megawatts of power. If we push that 100%, I don't think Scott would let us push them at 100%. So they're
Very long.
very long. On June 10th, in the middle of that heat wave, we hit 14.2. We're 2 meg short based on that peak. This industrial park that ECA just agreed to terms on, we've been talking to DGR, that could be another meg. And then the Connexus, that industrial park is probably, Jeremy, 8 meg?
I mean, it could be 8, it could be 18, it could be
Yeah,
4.
yeah.
You don't really know.
So we're talking big numbers. So in addition to the transmission and distribution side of it, there is the generation side. And is it worth spending a lot of money for that 4 hours on a hot day year?
but that might turn it to 8, 12 as we get hotter.
Yeah, I mean, the risk analysis is really where it's complicated. I think this is a big reason why staff really wanted to do this electric system study, is to better understand the
I'm all
issue
for that.
and provide the commission with data. Because I do think there are some very challenging questions coming for who we want to be. What I've noticed is as municipal utilities grow, it typically becomes less and less of an issue for them to cover their load on the worst day. They might have some supplement, but to cover 100% gets very expensive. So within the SIPA membership, I want to say there's only a few of us that can actually cover their entire town. Rochester can, the Owatonna and Austin can, and they're big communities. So if that's the direction we want to go with it, we may have to understand that we might not have enough generation on that worst day. If we can cover 90% of the year, you know, is that good enough? Or, you know, is it worth millions for something that may or may not happen? Those are questions that I think the commission is going to have to think about.
How unique are we in the fact that we do have two different electric providers in city limits?
Well, I know North Branch has some Excel territory and some East Central Service territory. When you look at a lot of the other communities, Litchfield is split up too. Some of it just comes down to the history. You know, there were some commissions in the past and some communities who said, no, we're always going to stick with city limits, and they were very aggressive at it. There were others who just didn't want to be responsible for it It just kept the utility a constant size. I think what I'm seeing is most of our peers are more in the camp of, we should serve our town. And so some of that service territory stuff is being addressed. So I would say most of them would want to match up exactly with the city limit.
And, Rick, another thing that kind of spurred this too is what, if you're talking about the pilot, you know, when during our pilot discussion, we were talking about how the customers and the ratepayer, or the taxpayers, ratepayers are kind of the same, but in our situation, we have taxpayers that aren't ratepayers on quite a volume of electricity out there, it sounds like. So, you know, when we're talking about a pilot versus like a franchise fee, you know, we're talking about a lot of times they use a franchise fee across the board. That way, everybody in the city is, you know, there's nobody subsidizing another party. So they were all under the same. It might be.
It's a very complicated topic, which is why the work group is formed, and Michelle and I are continuing to have conversations to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. That's, you know, really our goal.
Right. Exactly.
Keith,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, no.
Moment if you're done. But, I was on the True North grid. Is that,
Yes.
it's a 4-hour presentation. And you want to get your mind blown away, just sit in that for a while. It caused me to pause and just think about what I just heard over this time period. And I called Keith and I said, where's the go button on this? You know, so I'm listening to all of these top people from North Dakota and, you know, all over. And how do you even start to put that whole thing in motion? I mean, it just, okay, so all you're doing your job when you hang up the phone, what's the next move? Because that is, I'm sure you guys appreciate it, but then Keith and I were comparing what Keith just talked about, you know, how big do we want to get? And then when he told me that we're at 14, and I thought we were good at 12, but then we do this and we do that, where do we go to cover all of that? If we want to stay the status quo in which we have the ability to service, if we need to. So this is just a real small issue compared to what's out there.
Yeah.
And they have to think so far ahead of time. The one commented that this project that they're just starting from day one was 10 years ago. And they're just starting to build. And it just takes that long.
Yeah.
So you can get behind the curve real quick, is what I find out. So you really have to be able to have some, I don't know, it's leadership, insight, whatever, to be able to think that far. Because if it isn't, we're gonna add another engine. If it's $8 million, where does it go? This and that. And, you know, so we have to be in tune, I guess, for lack of a better word, to, you know, just don't say, let's do it. So that's one of the questions when I was coming from what bonds are and stuff, you know, if that's lower, that frees up some things for us. So they all kind of tie it.
Okay, 8D, hydrant annual fee proposal.
So, yeah, this was introduced last month as an opportunity to try to help with some of the local government organizations and a nonprofit who has need for higher volumes of water from a hydrant at a different location. I guess I'm putting it out there for just some direction from the commission. What do you want us to do?
Based on that proposal that in the memo there?
Yeah, you could
Can we just
either,
make a vote on that, or?
yes, you could, if you want
I would like to do that,
to. Okay.
you know, follow your recommendations on that. Make a motion. to follow those recommendations on that.
And I have no problem with that. I'd be happy to second it.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay, we will incorporate that into our fee structure that is proposed with the budget plan for when we get into that in October.
Perfect.
It's interesting. Last month when we talked about this, the next day, I saw this red tanker truck that I haven't consciously seen before. And I'm not gonna say an old man, but an older man.
That's all wrong.
In time. But he was, the wrench was there and he's whistling and the water's going in. How do we know that he actually contacted you or said, this is what I am using? I would have never thought of it before if we didn't have that meeting last Monday or last month. But it caught my eye because we did. So,
It's amazing how many people bird dog that. The phone calls that we get or I get. Did you know?
I was going to, but then I was already passed. I had no license number or anything else. But
People pay attention.
Well,
if they're informed, like I wasn't, but it was by the old,
the old roller, right?
yep.
You can call him old, he's old.
I was trying to be funny.
No, you can call him old.
All right, 8E. Seasonal water service shut off discussion. Did we have that already?
Oh, we did have that, that again was proposed last month, was put there for the commission to consider. We think it gives some definition and direction to staff as to exactly what the proper way to handle this is. Same as the other one, this is to the commission as to, is this something you want us to do or not?
I don't see a problem with it. I mean, I really don't. So it's just another policy that needs to be.
Yeah, the reason it's there is because we just feel like that's something in writing. So when
Right.
you call and ask, well, will you do this? Will you do that? We can say, no, here's the rules, here's the parameters. Everybody understands.
So do you want some action?
I would need a motion
Yeah, I'll-
to approve.
I'll make that motion. Approve that.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. F. ACH discussion.
And my only question there is, as we discussed pretty well last time, if you look at the minutes, I think it's 8D on your comment. We want to read that again, maybe it'd be helpful. But what I don't want to lose is the time from now until January 1st, where we weren't working on educating the public, the track of people are actually hearing it. Are we mailing it to them? I know we're on Facebook and this and that, but are they noticing the difference? Or are we noticing the difference? I don't know how you track that, but I just don't want to wait 6 months and go, okay, now we got to get into it.
Well,
I want to hit the ground running January 1st.
yeah. I mean, it's really hard to motivate people to, it's hard to motivate people to do anything without almost some real incentive or either
And
big
incentive,
incentive or big pain, whatever incentive it is, but
the incentive to do something is that you're going to
I
be,
think, as long
charged.
as we're educating them, that it's available, and I think, if we do decide to implement that, or vote on it, I think on that fee, when it comes to the fee structure, then I think it's probably going to get a little more imminent if we do
yeah.
adopt a change. But I think, I, as far as from now till then, I think the education that we're doing in the billing, social media, or website, I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I think if they're seeing it over and over, if they see it 7 to 12 times, that's typically how much time it takes before someone remembers something.
You know, I don't know if there are or not, but even if there's a little, you know, pamphlet by the window, you know, just ACH doesn't cost anything, you know, just however, I'm not saying change anything that we're doing right now. I'm just saying, let's take the opportunity to educate people in any way we can.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's on Facebook.
If you have any other ideas to implement, or just, you know, maybe have a little, maybe the mindset staff, there's some other way that's, you know, to, you know, maybe when people come in to pay, ask, hey,
Which we do.
so I'm not sure. And I don't, but I've said this before, I don't want to micromanage.
Right, no,
Here's the big idea, we hire a manager.
Yeah.
to manage it.
And what we did in the last month is, you know, we did have the pay now button, which on our website, which went straight to the Interlake portal. We did add in the payment option, which lists the ACH first. So we did add in a brand new web page, so that folks are aware of their options. We did do that Facebook post on ACH, and then the bills that are going out this month, which is the first bills that have been started since the last meeting, have an ACH message on it.
excellent, that's what I want to hear. Great.
And, before I forget, good job on that service territory negotiation too.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Like a couple of,
It always takes more time than you think it should.
yeah. Okay. Okay, was that it?
Yeah, so I just wondered up there,
Yeah,
and we're gonna go, gee, it's December now. So. just-
right. New business, 9A audit report.
Yeah, I'm just going to, the audit has been provided to the commission and the usual suspects, so the city got a copy as well. It is posted on our website and, you know, printed copies available. We have Keith Porter scheduled to come to our July meeting and do a presentation.
Perfect.
We were looking at doing it this month, but with Chairman Hanson not being here, Greg really wanted to.
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah.
So Keith has confirmed with that, that he is available on the 27th.
9B, credit checks in lieu of deposits.
Yeah, this is something, I'm offering this as just some information at the moment. One of the ideas that the commission talked about was our deposit policy and perhaps trying to do a credit check. So I reached out to, I noticed that Owatonna Public Utilities does that. So I reached out to folks that I know at Owatonna, and they use a company called Online Utility Exchange. So I reached out to them, talked to one of their sales folks, and then they did a webinar that Kathy and I sat in on to better understand the process. The Online Utility Exchange utilizes Experian for their credit checks. And although we wouldn't actually get a credit score, they do calculate a risk assessment.
Sorry.
That's all right. They calculate a risk assessment based on credit scores as well as utility delinquency. So they got a couple of defaults. You know, they can give you kind of a stoplight, green, yellow, red. And their default is 680 or higher is a green, and then they have a middle one and then a red one. Some utilities just do a green and red. Some might do yellow as kind of a reduced deposit. It's all over the map when I've surveyed our peers on this. But there were some interesting things that came out of the demo, which is using this online utility exchange. They do ID verification. You know, so we have had situations in the past where somebody comes in, gives us a social security number, and it's not correct. And so that hurts us when it comes time to do collection.
Right.
So we can get that done up front. They do the risk determination, which we can modify, but then that's they do that. So then also it's not on staff and they get accused of, well, you didn't think about this, or, you're treating me differently. So that's nice. It does check all applicants on the account in one search. And because OUE, Online Utility Exchange, works with a lot of other utilities, including, I have the list. Well, I had it in the memo, I thought. They work with some of our neighbors, so kind of the East Centrals and Connexus and Elk Rivers of the world. So if somebody skips out on them and they're a member of OUE, when they come to apply for us, it gets fine. That, even if it's not their credit score yet, if it's only in OUE system. Oh, I do have it here, I'm sorry. Connexus, Elk River, Meter Cooperative, right there. Including Owatonna, which is where I heard from. They specifically note utility delinquencies in their credit report. It's all online, so when somebody comes in and does the application, we type in their name, social security number, it verifies it, and within a couple of seconds, we get a go, no go on it, which is really nice. It automatically generates a form letter that we can immediately print and give to the customer explaining the reason for the decision. If the customer wants to contest anything, there's a number for OUE on the letter. Saying, that's not us, it's not our database. Here's who you're gonna call if you want to fix anything. In the meantime, this is our policy. It's considered a soft hit, so it does not impact credit scores for the customer. OUE also does have a collection arm. They have staff specifically trained in collections for the utility industry. The rates are same, if not better, than our current collection agency. So we could get a twofer out of this, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. In the memo, I did give an example of what the report would look like. You can see it's pretty straightforward. Nice big graphics, nice big text, so it's pretty obvious. Obviously, it's a service, so there's a cost associated with it.
Sure.
OUE bills a monthly access charge of $30 a month, and then $3.05 for each credit check. Assuming we do about 24 applications a month, give or take, we would be looking at an average cost per applicant of about $4.30. We don't expect that we don't expect that this will save us on labor costs because, I'm sorry, I'm reading that backwards. We do expect that it's also going to save us on labor costs because we're not going to have to spend a lot of time collecting historical utility data, which is what we do now. Working with the customer to know what to ask from their previous utility. It's all done through the credit check. We ensure that we get correct information at the time of application, which will make future potential collections easier. And then it also makes the deposit decision very clear and absolute, thereby eliminating customer confusion. So that's on the credit check portion of it. So my thought was, if it's something the commission wants to consider, folks still have the option. They don't have, we don't have to do a credit check on them if they really don't like it, but then you pay the deposit. If you want the deposit waived, then here's our process. So we'd have to get a sign. They would have to sign as part of the application form allowing us to do it because we need to have permission before we do anything. But if we did it for everybody, it is a cost. The collection services, they offer collection services at a flat fee of 35% when the delinquency occurs within the last year. They don't charge that fee if it ends up being paid through, they're calling it charity payments, that'd be your economic assistance programs and things like that. Or if the customer returns as a utility customer within 5 months, because then we can address it at that time. For delinquencies that are over a year in age, the fee is 50%. Currently, we pay a 50% fee for our collection agencies if we get to that point. We try to do everything we can before that, but at that point, half is better than nothing. We can have a look at it. So a couple of questions for the commission, and I'm not looking for a decision today. I'm going to introduce this and have people have time to think about it, see what you want to do. I would prefer to have one process. So we either continue to do the utility billing history that we've been doing, or we do this. I'd really prefer not to have two different ones, because then people will play the game and pick and choose. Given the costs that are associated with it, Does the commission want to consider instituting an application? Because it is an increased cost that we have, that we incur that we currently don't have. So at this time, staff doesn't have a recommendation. We're just providing it for your consideration and would like to get some direction at a future commission meeting for what you want us to do.
I really like it.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it's just lovely opportunity to free up time. As far as the cost goes, you're gonna give up a percentage if you do, get the collection, so it's at half is better than nothing. As far as the 405, these people that are renting, they're paying those fees anyway. If to me, I'm gonna do a background check, it's $30. If they don't want to give me that $30 up front, I'm not running it, because it tells me that they're serious. So $5, if you add 95 cents for admin fee for just doing it, charge them $5 to cover our costs. It's done.
I think it's my cost on, we run the same system, basically, and it's, I think my cost is like 23, it's a $30 fee just because of staff cost,
Right.
cover the staff time, it's
Okay.
20 minutes of running it, making a phone call back, going through it. So, yeah, I mean, I was just thinking maybe $10.
Yeah, whatever that would be.
Cover, staff time and fees.
Okay.
That was like $4 or something.
My back of the envelope was, you're looking at about $4.30 on average per application
Yeah,
for us
so-
to implement this.
And if it takes 10, 15 minutes, you can have $5 at least of.
And 10 is very reasonable too.
Yeah,
I'm just.
I mean, we're not here to make a profit off it, just want to cover our labor burden and our.
Right.
Fees.
So we don't come back.
That was,
Okay.
that would be. all right.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Just gonna take so much pressure off the office,
Yep.
off of you,
Yeah.
and free up a whole bunch of time so we can do it.
Your staff's gonna love it because
Yeah.
there's no arguing. It's like, here's the paper, argue with them,
Right,
you
exactly. It's out of our hands at that point.
Now, I make a huge assumption that if the staff is happy, everybody's happy. So it just improves the whole thing.
Yeah. So,
And then if you want to
I
get
would-
mad at somebody, get mad at these people, not, and our image goes up.
You think $10 is a good number, I would make a motion on it.
I'm second it.
Let's wait till.
I would like to have it, right?
Yeah.
You have confidence here with.
Yes. So I will put it on the agenda for next month and then,
And I do agree, one process, and then another thing I would want is no yellow,
oh,
because then there's room for friends of whatever, well, I'm yellow, can you do, green or red? Just-
I like a very simple
Yeah.
go. Yes, sir.
Yellow, you can make me green. Well, really,
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because I've run into that, and I finally made it, this is the cutoff. There's no give, it's just much easier.
If you give that little bit, that's where
Well-
trouble is.
Yeah, it snowballs like it. Very
Yeah,
good.
exactly. So,
Wonderful. Thank you for the info.
yeah. BC donations and requests.
So this is also a follow-up, and then I did want to share some additional information as well. And there was a couple of questions too last time that I wanted to provide some information to. So if you remember, Randy Hatch was in here asking that the Legion is collecting donations for the 4th of July fireworks display. As far as the commission and the utilities operates, we've never set up a real specific grant program or policy when it comes to donations. Past donation expenses have been accounted for in our news ads and promotions category. That's in the financial reports and the transaction. The budget for 2021 was set at $7,000 for electric and $1,500 for water. That accounts for all our newspaper ads, our consumer confidence report, job postings, our promotional events, which includes Public Power Week and the Holiday Lighting Contest, and other community contributions, which includes scholarships and the 2020 banner project that came out of that same account. Currently, expenditures in that account are $884.50 for electric and $10.50 for water year to date. But I will note that that budget category is typically backloaded. Most of our expenses occur at the end of the year. Again, Public Power Week, the holiday lighting contest, things like that. I'm anticipating that our expenses will meet those budget projections with little to no excess funds. So the request is a non-budget item, it's not anticipated in our currently approved 2021 budget. In addition, I did get an email from the city asking if the commission would be interested in doing another donation to the Lights on Princeton event, which we did last year. I think we did like $2,000 then. So the city was wondering if we would do that again. So actually what we have is 2 requests for donations from this commission. So really looking for some direction right now for the commission as to what you want to do. Any amount that is approved is an additional expense, which means it's coming out of our cash reserves. That's the only spot that I have left. And if that's the case, we would need to know the amount approved and how much you want to come out of electric, how much you want to come out of water. It's 2 separate funds. Otherwise, if there's a need for a bigger discussion, I guess we could have that as well as to how you want to handle donation requests and things like that. I'm really looking for some direction. Well, I should say that's the information that I was asked to provide.
Right.
And then at this point, it's what you guys want to do.
Can I ask you, Jack, do you want to speak at this time or? Well, with your concerns, are they related to these items? You wanted a moment for the comment?
So Legion.
Well, I would depend on your action.
You what?
Depending on your action, is what Randy was here at your last meeting with the request. No, did you get a written request from our finance officer, Art Scarlett, also set out written solicitations? I don't have a list. I don't know.
I have the standard letter, which Randy had brought last month, if that's.
Oh, that probably was.
Yeah. I mean, what we talked about last month was the commission's all in favor of supporting the community. It's just, I'm asking logistical questions of how you want it. That's where I'm looking for.
It's not a budget item that we have in place.
We've never set up a grant.
Yeah.
A grant program. And, maybe it's one of those things where, we can do something now, but with the intent of really developing a policy and procedure, a process for how you want to deal with that stuff in the future.
Right, because otherwise, I feel like a deer in the headlights right now, to be honest, because we don't really have, a policy like what we do and how much and how many people that come in here.
Yeah.
This is the first request that I've seen since I've been here for a donation. But it does bring, first time for everything brings to the question, what's the policy, what's the procedure, what's the amount, what's our budget, what's,
And in past conversations I've had with Legion representatives, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Legion's going to do this. So, it's not like we have to decide today whether or not fireworks occur on the board. We can always come in later to help supplement some funding. There's some time.
Well, okay, let me speak to that a little bit. I don't know. I did see, I saw the meeting where Randy was here. I don't remember exactly what all he said. The Legion, and I can't give you a date timeline, but the Legion folks determined a few years ago, we would do a fireworks. $1.51. We're going to do it. And there's been a fireworks. Well, not as long as I can remember. Certainly, I'll just say 10 years. let's do a timeline. I'll say 10 years. It's always been done at the fairground. They've always been gracious to allow that facility to do it. Now, this year, we're actually amplifying that because the Ag Society is putting on a full-day program, which will culminate with fireworks. It's an enhanced program. Okay, the dollar part of it, again, the Legion committed, the contractor that does the fireworks, guaranteed they're gonna get a check. Underdone. Now, we at the Legion have chosen, some years we work harder than others to solicit contributions from the community. Don't want to speak that this has been a stronger year or better year. I can't answer that question really explicitly. Some years we've made a lot of effort to reach out, some years not. We usually have coffee cans at the fairgrounds, people can throw money in. No, your donation or anybody's donation is not, the firework is not dependent upon any individual donations. That's the short answer to that question. Now, should you not act, take an action later, any money we would have in excess of the cost would go into a line item for next year. It would be for that purpose. We've never had that happen. We've always had it, something, subsidized cost, and we're okay, we can do it. It's not that we can't do it. It's not, but it is a community event, and well, I'll tell you, last month when Randy was here, the past commander, he's the adjutant, which is like Pete Butcher. The adjutant kind of is the heavy lifter in the regular league. Between that meeting and this meeting, the Legion has a new commander. So I intend to start taking a more active role with Legion activities and community activities. That's my goal. I'm here today, I'm basically here today to do what I'm doing, answer any questions. Depending on your action, thanks, or walk out my head, or whatever. I don't think, I'm open to question. We're working with Michelle this year at the fair board. She's the president, so we're really looking forward to a super program this year. In the whole, the fireworks is separate from the fair Ag Society. It's a separate contract with the Legion. But we are included in an afternoon program. We haven't got that finalized yet. We're going to do some kind of a night presentation. They have music. It's going to be a fun event.
Yeah, it's a great, I mean, I'm personally, I'm in support of it. It's more or less of, we should have a policy and procedure for it. And for other events, like you say, like Light Up Princeton, and maybe something else comes along that we, want to support the community. I think we should feel obligated to do that.
Yeah.
But we've got to do it in a process procedure way, so it's more orderly than this.
I agree, Dan. And I felt that way with the skidster. We did that. That wasn't necessarily in the budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we get hit with that.
Correct.
And the $2,000 for the city, what's it called? Snow days or whatever.
Light Up. Light Up.
Yeah.
Princeton.
Yeah. So that wasn't it.
I have to say though, for the skid steers, typically that comes out of our capital improvements fund. So it is a different pocket money.
Right.
But yes,
But
what is correct.
I would, as running a business, I would like to have that policy and have that drawer or pocket or whatever, that if we're gonna make the Light Up Princeton a annual thing, then it should become available that way. If we're gonna make this an annual thing, then we need to, you know, that's how the budget should be set, in my opinion.
Well, I guess I would, having said that, though, I mean, the 4th of July is before the next meeting, and I wouldn't mind maybe agree to an amount right now and then put that on our agenda for the business to set that policy. Okay. I can't remember what levels.
Do you have the levels, Jack?
It was 250, 500, they had names for it.
Donation?
Yeah, for the donation tiers.
Do you?
No, you can get $5.
There-
No.
I thought there was, I thought there was like a suggestion. Or something.
There is.
Oh, did Randy say that? I don't
The
know.
highest level, I believe, was 1,000.
Correct.
And then I think they call them stars or stripes or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not aware.
And I think
Got
Greg,
a lot of
when he was
work.
Did they, if we could just, do you put the donors on like a sheet of paper or advertisement or anything like that?
There will be acknowledgement, yeah, and I'm not
Maybe we
gonna,
can-
I'm not gonna go down there because I don't know exactly. There will be some kind of public acknowledgement.
But
Yeah.
if we do a public acknowledgement. we can
Oh,
ask
whether there'll be
people-
something at the fairgrounds that day, I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe we could ask people
The
to sign up
city-
for the ACH.
Yeah, the city council actually made the same comment when they gave monies out of the Princeton Wine and Spirits grant bucket. They have a bucket that they set every year. And so haven't quite hammered out the details yet, but yes, I believe that what we will do is work with the Legion and Art to do some sort of, if it's not on the grounds, but
There'll be something.
we'll
Okay.
do like a Facebook post or something. We have briefly talked about actually doing a sponsorship banner because we have a lot of partners, Central Regional Arts. Commission afternoon and evening entertainment. We have free music for the evening, so we need to acknowledge that as part of our grant agreement. So we'll just maybe do one with banner of some sort.
Can I just ask this question of everybody in the room? A concern or question that I had too, brought up to me is, if we give whatever we give, if it's 500, 1,000, or your $5, as ratepayers, do you find that in a negative manner that we're spending fireworks for Legion and the 4th of July? You see that where somebody's saying, well, we're spending our money, and now we gotta jack up our rates, and
In my history, I've seen it both ways. You have some people say, hey, that's great, you're helping the community, and then it always seems 50-50. Half the people think you're great, and half the people think you're horrible.
Okay.
So it comes down to what you guys think is the best.
Can I speak as a ratepayer, not a?
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, you know, we've been through, and what we've done, we've just come off of 2 years of hell in this area. And trust me, I felt every inch of it.
Yeah.
In the community, perception of this organization was terrible. An incident, you know, to pay $500, you got for a number. It didn't even pocket change in the whole operation. But by the community perception, I see it as a plus. That's my position as a rate.
Kathy, what's your opinion as a ratepayer? I know you're not a ratepayer, but
Won't come on.
I'd rather really rather not put staff on the spot.
well, it's just that, I mean, if
Well,
trying to get that feel, if it's 50-50, it's 50-50, we don't have to go any further.
Michelle, what was the city planning on doing something?
Actually, the city actually agreed and has already paid $2,500 out of their So out of the wine and spirits, net profits, every year, at least recent years, because they had some other expenditures coming out of that pool of money. They used to donate, or they used to set aside $30,000 annually from the wine and spirits net profits. It's been reduced in recent years down to 20,000. And then we do have a formal application, and, you know, the council makes its decision. But yes, the city council has already donated, and the check has already gone to the pyrotechnics company for $2,500.
Well,
Jack, do you know what the total expense is approximately gonna run this year?
Yeah, they run, I don't have a hard number,
Approximately.
at our last meeting, last leading meeting, Art Scarlett, our finance officer, he's pretty much taking care of all the private, the company, you know, does all the negotiating. You're looking at around $11,000, 11 to 11.5 is what the numbers he put out for a grand total.
what did we do for the light up Princeton? You know?
2 is what Stephanie had mentioned in her email we did last year.
And I know there was some justification for that, but I can't remember what, because we had spent some money on something else, but
Oh, we did that for the banner project.
that was the banner.
That was the
banner project. Which, I guess, I mean, I would like to do as much as we can, but, you know, without having a budget discussion and all that, you know, and figure out what that is, for now, I guess I would make a motion that we would do 1,000.
I think, and I can't speak for Greg, but when this was brought up last meeting, he kind of grabbed that sheet and pointed, you know, at that 500, but he didn't say the 500 to 999. He just pointed towards the mid column. You know, and I don't know if you want to do this independently or if you can do it both. I suppose independently should be the case. I personally, Jack, have no problem giving $1,000, but I would like to see it next year, at least these things as we got a plan for those things.
And I like the idea of an application process and, like, you know, just a little more formal process procedure. But, yeah.
Yeah, when Randy was here, the thing that stuck in my mind is that we're gonna do it either way, or, you know, or we're not. So it's like, well, then go do it.
But it didn't bring it, it just brings to the point that we're missing a process and procedure here.
Yeah.
Because it's not, this isn't the last time we're gonna ask for a donation, right? I know it's not the first. So.
But then maybe part of that policy is we aren't set up for that. Submit it and we can maybe put it in for next year. Because it's not part of the budget. You know, so at some point in time, we might get hit for something really big.
Correct.
And we have to be prepared for that.
Right.
So.
Yes, I think this would be a really important topic as part of our budget discussion for next year. In figuring out what our appetite is, putting that in there, and then you can work on the disbursement throughout the year.
Right.
But at least you have a budget item.
Yeah.
You have an idea of what you have left.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like the city council. I mean, they've set aside a dollar amount. And they don't say that, yes, we're gonna donate to this person or no. But what they do is, every time we have a request, then the finance director updates where the city is sitting from a financial standpoint in terms of expenses to date and what the pool of money available is in the wine and spirits net profits based on year-to-date numbers. And then they make a determination. So they just have, like I said, it's currently set at 20,000. Next year during budget, they might choose to bump it back up to 30. And but that's what the city does, is every time we get a request, we make sure we update the fund balance account with the most accurate number so that council knows kind of what's available. So.
Can I make a couple comments?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess since I am the commander, I'm gonna go on the limb now. I don't want you people to feel pressured in any way, shape, or form to do. You have to do what you have to do. So don't, you're certainly not under any pressure from me as a Legion commander, or I hope nobody else, you know. I want to make that very clear. The other thing is, at our program, our part of the program, and again, this isn't all ironed out yet, but I do plan on doing a public announcement of some kind, thanking the donors and the fair boards, you know, a general thank you, but whether I'll have a list of names or not, at that point, I don't know. And probably wouldn't want to anyway, because I'll forget somebody or whatever. But there will be a general public thank you at the event. And again, hopefully we will put together something more formal. Then Michelle would participate with Randy or Art or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
I
get
think
something.
Jack-
We're kind of in cahoots on this year, sort of.
Well, I can say, it. So if I can put my other hat on, as Fair Board president, I can honestly say that at least the current group of Fair Board members, they want to continue a bigger 4th of July event for the community. So we will continue to partner with the Legion. We're partnering with Kinship to run bingo as part of our family fun event, so that they have an opportunity to raise some funds for their activities. So, you know, we're trying as a Fair Board to become, to put our tentacles out into other local groups. So I anticipate that you won't see it necessarily from the fair, but you will see rumblings again that we're going to do some type of event. I fully anticipate that that's the plan. For 22. So.
I think it's smart that
It probably could be more in-depth, maybe more formal than it is.
We could, to get
I don't
into,
know,
we could, as a public utility, do personal public relations outreach.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna mention too, Jack, if I may, Mr. Chairman. You know, you mentioned the last 2 years and everything you went through. You know, everybody here at some point in time, and some more than others, went through that same hell too.
No, I wasn't trying to, I wasn't.
No,
looking
no,
for sympathy.
no, but where I'm going with this is it's a great opportunity to say we're friendly, we're, you know, positive instead of negative. For 2 years, we're positive. So I think that we're just looking for something.
I remember when I was on the city council, PUC live, and I remember a comment that Chairman Harrison made when he first got on the committee, the commission, was we have to repair the perception of this. And I'm paraphrasing, but with something on that word.
And I think this is part of giving back. If somebody came up to me and said, you know, why are you spending money there? Well, we're not just about take. We're giving back. If you choose to go to the fireworks, it's up to you, but we're community driven. So,
Well, I mean, I'm out of the inside now, but the pilot program, my vision of the pilot program includes every stuff like this too. In my opinion. You know, it's part of the whole big picture.
Well, I mean, you were saying Greg said something about five.
Well,
you know,
I can't speak for him, but he, you know, my point is at point 500, it's also 999. And I'd rather give that extra dollar to get to the next level.
Yeah,
I mean, I have no problem making a motion to donate $1,000 to the Legion for the fireworks event.
Actually, I think Dan had already made that one.
yeah,
Was it?
yeah.
And I probably already seconded it too.
No, you didn't second it.
I will second.
I just wanted to see if we needed to amend it or something for the motion. But I have a motion and a second for $1,000 donation for the Legion for the 4th of July donation. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
As a commander, I thank you very much, and I think I'm speaking for the entire post. It's gonna be a great show.
You
Madam President.
All right, 9D meeting schedule.
Yes, in reviewing the meeting last month, I realized we had never actually did a formal motion on moving
Oh.
the meeting. And also I had a conversation
We
with
moved
our
it
audit
to 20th. Is that what?
to the 27th.
27 at 10.
Yes, but I did have a conversation with Keith Porter this morning. He would not be able to be here at 10. He could probably be here around 11. So I'd like to suggest that maybe we start at 10:30. We can get through some of our normal business, and as soon as Keith gets here, we can go right into the audit.
Oh, I have, how long is it built?
The commission meeting, we've been going about 1.5 to 2 hours typically. I mean, with the audit, it really depends on questions you guys have.
Right. But could we start at 10? Could we start at 10 and still do our stuff, and when he's here, then just jump in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just keep it.
Try to get through.
Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah, that helps. 'cause
I just only know he might not get here right at 11, somewhere between 11 and 11:30,
No,
but
but we're running an hour and a half right now, so.
So, yeah, we have a 1 o'clock obligation that day, so.
okay. So yes, I would just need a motion to move the July meeting to 10 a.m. on the 27th.
So
I'll second. A motion, a second to move the meeting to Tuesday, July 27th at 10 a.m.
Yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Motion.
just have a question, Mr. Chairman. With the lighting up Princeton, do we want to take care of that now or next meeting if there's time there, but
There is time, so I think we can prepare that at the next meeting. I don't think we need to do it today. Stephanie was just being very proactive in making sure that she said it's early, she just wants to make sure it's on our radar.
that's fine.
So I think that's fine to continue that discussion next time.
If I may, can we schedule a workshop on the 13th of July?
What purpose?
For some, and I think the other commissioners have gone through this when the auditor calls and interviews a commissioner. Dan, have you been through that?
Yeah,
process?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, and it was, and they give pointers and whatnot, and that's all our suggestions, just like they do to you or, anyway. So that would be part of it that I'd like to talk about. What do we do for HR? What do we do to keep track of certain things? What the church does is that instead of hiring an HR group, and it's not just HR, there's some other things too, but they'll have one person from the council take over, this area and this area and this area. So if there's an issue or complaint, they don't go to the priest right away. So they have those so if we have 3 different things, if we have an outside, truck people, and if we have an office admin, and if we have an engine crew, well, that's 3. I don't know if there's another sector in that or not. But we could talk about doing that. So it's coming from another person or head if there's issues that need to be discussed. That's one. And then just some of the general accounting. I was hoping Greg would be here because I want to discuss that with him, but I can't unless we're at a meeting. So this is part of what I'm asking for the July 13th workshop.
We're not getting into policy. Is that, are you talking about policy discussion or? Are you?
I'm talking about to smooth out, and this comes from the auditor, to make sure that everything is running smooth. And it just, I agree with that. I mean, if there's a complaint, where do they go to? Or you?
Well, it depends who it is. I mean, initially, it depends which department it is. It would go to the department.
Okay.
And then if the department head, and I'm the department head for the office, so that. But then we might talk about it at like an SLT meeting, because we have a senior leadership meeting every week. Kind of go through what the policies are, what historically we've done, and we've been very, I think, very able to address any questions and concerns that have come up over time. I mean, actually, last month, we had an all-staff meeting to look through our employee handbook again and talk about questions.
Sure.
You know, I think, you know, we did, I think it's important to note that the staff did do an abandonment of the unionization effort because I think they felt they trusted the commission and the administration to address any questions they had. So I don't know of any problems. But yes, it would, to answer your question, yeah, it would go to the department heads, then it could go to the general manager, and then ultimately it could go to the commission if they wanted to take it to that level.
This is not Rick speaking, this is the information that the auditor shared with me.
Yeah.
He said it's a good idea, just to do some random samplings of, you know, statements, you know, who's doing that? Well, and I would like to better know what Greg actually does. Because if he's already doing this when he checks the bills and whatnot, it would be better for me to understand what Greg does when he comes into the office and overlooks the bills and signs off. And I'd like to know his job better. Maybe that in itself takes care of these concerns. I don't know.
Well, I don't want to get into micromanaging.
I don't either.
Keith's
That's
job.
not.
So I want to make sure that if we're sticking to just policy,
Mhm.
you know, that the general manager implements. So I don't have a problem with. It was really an eye opener when I met with those auditors too, for me on a lot of levels. So, and I had some just one-on-one discussions with Keith after that. I had a lot of those questions answered. So I don't know. We can do that. I can't meet on the 13th.
Okay. Okay.
My schedule's full already.
Okay.
But maybe, you know, some of those questions you could talk with Keith before we. I don't know. But
Yeah, and I'm just following the lead on the information that the auditor recommended to me.
Yeah,
So when he saw a loophole or something,
yeah.
he contacted me and he said, this is what you might want to talk about. So that's what I'm offering.
Yeah,
Nobody did anything wrong. He's not insinuating that, hey, it's not
Yeah.
that, it's looking before something happened.
yeah, the one that kind of caught my attention on that was about, he asked me questions about internal theft. It really caught me off guard, like, what's going on, you know, well, it's just one of the things they go over. And what they ask is there anybody here that's having problems at home? They go, well, I don't know, well, what does that have to do with internal theft? But
I thought the same thing too.
I don't know if did you?
Oh, yeah, it's like,
the same
do they
thing?
understand that gambling problem?
Well, but actually having been, you know, robbed by one of my staff at one point and actually ended up, going to jail and everything, but so I wish I would have known some of those signs that it was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I actually, as the general manager, I actually did the other way. So, commission, do you have any conflicts of interest? Do they ever pressure you to do any? I mean, it's just, they're just going through their normal.
Really?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, I want to hire those auditors for my business. Go through everything. So I think, I guess, I understand it's an eye opener. It's like, if you've never been through that before, it's an eye opener, but it makes you think, boy,
Well,
are we looking into these things? Who keeps
does.
track of who's having gambling? I don't know, do you keep track of that? No, but you know what I mean? But it was, some of them, it's like, I'm not getting paid enough. I deserve more. I should be, that roll of copper should be in the back of my truck because I didn't get paid enough last week or thing, and then they know it's not copper, but but it was very interesting. But I guess if if those questions could be answered, just, with the discussion.
Yeah, and we can start there, but I'm not sure without talking about this
Can we,
as a group, then I don't know that.
Could
I think
we,
it's
could we
worth
put it
it.
on, maybe put it on the agenda for the meeting after the auditors here?
Sure, that's fine.
instead?
It's just now you're discussing, well, I guess either way. I don't care either way,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'm really, the rest of this month,
Yeah, I understand that.
for me, that's, I don't know what I'd be able to make it to.
I'm not sure what you classify it under.
Well, it would be under the audit still, because those questions.
Yeah,
Should that be discussed with the person that's explaining the audit?
I mean, yeah, when Keith's here, I mean, he's gonna be presenting the audit, so any questions that, I mean, it's meant to be a Q&A, so.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity you guys to ask.
Well, then, yeah, we just maybe look at it then.
Yeah,
If it gets into something more, then we,
it's like, if we identify something that we really want to make sure is covered.
okay, I'm fine with that.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would make that motion.
I'll second. Motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Scratch this.
Thank you, everyone.
The auditors are intimidated.